This is from the cartoonist Leunig, that people probably know. Life is porous. The whole world leaks. There's no such thing as a perfect seal. It all gets out. It all gets in. Everything leaks into everything, so that everything can heal. What a terrible, sad neurosis is the fear of this osmosis. Isn't that beautiful? I'm really impressed and delighted at the willingness in this group to be in, to get into the bath. I wasn't sure in the beginning of this retreat. I could tell that people were like, I just put a little toe maybe to see if it's too hot or too cold, the bath. And then very quickly, boom, it felt like people had got in the bath, into the meditation, with an incredible receptivity, actually. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty amazing for a lot of people here who haven't done retreats before. So I find this, very curious. Probably there's something to do with a lot of people being into dance and that easy access into the body, so that you actually know already how to do that. So it just took a little bit of adapting to the habit of I come into my body when I'm dancing, and the rest of the time I'm thinking living. It wasn't so difficult to go ooh, blah, 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 and into the body. So, and into this incredible silence that there has been here. So thank you for that willingness to be here, to show up and come to the sessions and stay through the sessions and explore things, try things out. There's these like classical currents that happen in our meditation and on a retreat, often around day 3 or 4. And traditionally, they're called the hindrances, the obstacles, which sounds a bit scary. But in the Ajahn Chah tradition, they're actually perceived in a different light. And instead of them being obstacles, they're more like helpful tools that we can use, actually. What could be obstacles to meditation can be used, when recognized as such, can be used as tools, actually, to get to know our mind, body and heart, to free it from contractedness, tightness, over-identification with this me-ness that we believe in 100%. So there are 5. Of course, there's lots of spectrum within that. But just to make it easy to remember, we have these 5 kind of main lines. And they are desire, aversion, agitation, sleepiness, and doubt. So I'll speak a little bit about those as something that we can kind of look out for in our meditation and recognize and feel what they feel like. And sometimes we can apply some antidotes if that feels appropriate. Sometimes not. Sometimes we can just feel them and get to know them so that we know what's happening. So one that we've already spoken about a bit, I think, on this retreat is like sleepiness. Because there's been quite a few questions in the one-to-ones and in the notes and stuff about dullness and dissociation and this kind of thing. And it can often be in meditation a movement to not be here, this going into dullness, sloth and torpor, they call it, but that's a bit maybe easier for people who are English speaking as first language. But torpor as in that kind of dullness that has little energy, like maybe stuck out in the ocean with no wind in the sails or something, And there's that possibility to be curious about that. When there's that dullness that sits in, when we're almost falling asleep, or it's just, it's kind of foggy. Our body state, our mind state, it's a bit like, dull and foggy. And to be curious and get to know what does that feel like? The fog. The dullness. And is there a movement behind it that wants to not be here? And when we can go diving in deep enough with that curiosity, like those little things you see in the films when they go ocean exploring. These little like capsules with the lights, like in the Titanic or something. These things. I always wanted one of them. But we're as if we were in one of those. We can go deeper exploring below the different levels of these dullnesses, fogginess, and feel into the emotional energy underneath. What is there that we don't want to be with? And that's where it becomes a tool, rather. It becomes something that's helpful for us to go deeper into inquiry, to what's happening now when I dull out, when I don't want to be here. What is it I don't want to know about? And it might be that what we don't want to be with could be too full on, too intense to meet. As I've said to quite a few people in the one-to-ones, but I'll say now to the larger group, because it's probably helpful for everyone, to meet certain intensities with naked awareness is painful. It can be too much. So we need to build the capacity to be able to meet and embrace whatever is arising in us, but realistically, So we're not trying to meet things, just go, okay, I can do it, I can meet anything, because sometimes there's some really intense trauma going on, and then we need to be gentle and approach, and just dip a little finger in, and go, okay, that's enough for today. That's enough. I've just had a little taste. Okay, I know you're there. Whatever our demons are that are making us dull out, that are making us want to escape and avoid life, we need to be tender with them too. So we can be sitting in meditation, we feel this dullness, and sometimes it's just that we haven't slept enough, we've had a busy life, and we need more sleep or something. But sometimes it is a real avoidance thing going on. Approaching and very gently feeling around what it is that's dulling us out. And sometimes it can literally be that we're sitting and the antidote could be to just open your eyes a bit. Sometimes it could be to just gently, very gently stand up and for 5 minutes just meditate standing, eyes looking straight. So you're not looking at people, checking them out or anything like that. And then very gently come down. And this will invariably change the dullness state, hey? Because it's difficult to be falling asleep and spacing out when you're standing up, hey? It's a big subject. Sleepiness and dullness and stepping out from being present. But that's just a little beginning of something to be going on, hey. The one that is often coupled with it, that is kind of like the opposite, is agitation. So we can be there and we've grounded and we're like, okay, what's happening now? And there's this restlessness. There's this zinging, this bzzz, this wiredness, you know? Like we've had, 5 liters of coffee or something, and we haven't necessarily had 5 liters of coffee. But there's this thing that won't allow us to come down, to quite relax. And that is something we can also be curious about. How does it feel, this restlessness in me? And to keep with our thing, like in the Titanic, the capsule with its lights, going deeper, deeper, deeper into the sensation of that zingingness. So that we're going beyond, like there's the thoughts might be zinging, the emotions, and into our own molecules, to feel that restlessness and agitation in our molecules. We can sit right down into that to get to know how it is. What is agitation? Do I know restlessness? So this is very, very different from I'm meditating and I should be calm and zen and having a wonderful, peaceful time, because that's what it said in the brochure, on the advertisement with the people with the lycra shorts and, And there's this other stuff happening. There's actually reality happening of what's going in our nervous system, what's going on in our nervous system. So being curious about that. And it might be that it's like, by and large, there's been this incredible slowing down, and even in the dining hall and in the corridors, there's this, wow, I can really feel people are touching the ground, they're touching the ground in their bodies. And every now and again, I cross a shooting star, and somebody's like still on the highway of some sort, energetically. And sometimes it just requires just going for a run, That can also be helpful. When there's too much restless energy, to do something very physical and to sweat can be really helpful. Just to allow that bubbling up of tension to be released through physicality. But as with dullness, our restlessness can tell us something about what's going on. And we can delve into that with curiosity. What is on the bottom of this restlessness, Does it have an emotional taste? Is it about, trains of thought, mentality? What is it about this? So we can be curious, feeling into it in a safe way, so we're not diving in and being overwhelmed and drowned by it. Always being careful. So we're like the deer coming in the forest to a lake, and we're just testing. We're not diving in, because then we just get drowned by agitation or sleepiness or whatever. The other couple is desire and aversion. So aversion can come up a lot in meditation. And like the other ones, it's not that it's bad. It's just part of our human existence. Hey, we have aversion. We have anger, ill will. These are common phenomena that comes up for us. And the same as with the deer in the forest, that's just tasting the water. We can get to know and recognize our aversion, how it feels in the body. How does anger manifest in you? So that we're not a slave to those strong intensities. So that we know them. So that we're not banishing. As soon as we start to exile anything, that it shouldn't be here, that it's no good, I should be a good meditator. So that's not supposed to be here. Then we're just adding petrol to the fire, you know? And we don't need to do that. All of it is interesting, all of it. So is our anger. What does it feel like? Where does it live? And then maybe with some tenderness, some softness, we can come into that deeper level of inquiry into what's underneath here. Oh, there's some energy, some emotional energy maybe, and there are times when it's way too intense to meet. I remember once I was on a 10-day silent retreat, and I kept having these really strong feelings of aversion, of anger about a situation and a person. And I was getting so consumed by it. I was just getting more and more tense. In my walking meditation, I was overwhelmed by these thoughts and this anger in me. And eventually I went to speak with the teacher, who said, well, what about some compassion for yourself for having these strong feelings? And so began a journey for me of finding that in myself. And dosing how much I can acknowledge and get to know a strong feeling, and how much sometimes it's just good to go, okay, that's enough of that, you know? And that's an important wisdom to know, that we can see, and we don't need to keep coming back to it and getting compulsive about the seeing. Once we've seen clearly, once we've felt clearly. So there's a Buddhist scripture about a blacksmith. So back in those days, 2,600 years ago, they used to make arrows, you know, so you'd have a blacksmith making arrows from metal, and then the blacksmith would sharpen the arrows, the metal. And it's like, but once you've sharpened the arrow, as metaphor for seeing clearly, you don't need to keep sharpening it. You've done that bit, you know. Let it down. The arrow is made. It's okay. Put it down, you know. So knowing that, that subtlety of seeing clearly and knowing, okay, I've got that, it's okay, step back from that. We don't need to go on and on about it in our minds. Another way with very strong aversion is to antidote with a lot of loving kindness, as I was just saying, for ourselves. So it can be, often it's a good idea to start with ourselves. So if we have anger, a lot of anger about a situation or another person, before we can bring some softening feeling towards them, to have some softening feeling towards ourselves for the hard feelings in ourselves. So noticing with our weather vane, the mind's movements, the heart's movements, going into aversion, agitation, dullness, sleepiness. And then there's desire. Very strong force in us. And sometimes, what's really funny is sometimes on retreats, the first few days are more agitation, sleepiness, aversion is what's cooking up in the brew, in the soup. And then things start to calm down. And with that, there's a kind of melting of the edges. And sometimes then sensuality comes up, leading to lust, desire. Sometimes for somebody on the retreat, even, Sometimes it's for somebody in our life that we would like to hop into bed with or whatever. But those thoughts and feelings and sensations can get very strong in this container. And it's quite funny when it happens to do with someone on the retreat, because we haven't even spoken to them. We've never really met them. And then suddenly it's like, whoa, and the fantasies are going off, and the sensations and the lust and, all of this is going off. And then we talk to them at the end of the retreat, even though throughout the whole retreat we decided we want to live with them for the rest of our lives and the holidays we were going to have together and everything. And then we speak to them and we realize, actually, no, I don't want to spend my whole life with this person because I don't know them, So that's one of the forms it can take. It can take a lot of different forms, but it certainly happens very naturally that we go from a kind of tired sleepiness in arrival, settling in, agitation, not being able to settle, feelings of anger, aversion, don't want to be here, wow. And then, this kind of a bit of tranquility comes, and with tranquility, sensuality comes. From sensuality comes lust. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's human, isn't it? Plain old human desire. And then it's how we relate to that, hey? If we take it and run with that ball, or if we can kind of relativize it a bit, so that it's not a compulsion thing that's leading us, that's pulling us by the nose, so that we can allow desire, but not be a slave to our desire. Even if it's just in our fantasy world or our sensate world, we can feel desire further, further, further. What is it? What is sensuality? And it's so fascinating for me how we can have like desire, lust, like in a one-pointed way for a human being. We want to hop into the bed with them and do things. Or we can also take that same energy and spread it wide into sensuousness. And sometimes it's the moment to hop into the bed with somebody and do that thing we do. And other moments that's not appropriate, or it's not what's happening. We're sitting here meditating, so, But spreading that energy of desire to allow it to be wider into this sensuousness. The earth, the wood is so sensuous. This human existence is so sensuous. Hey, being in our skin is such a sensuous experience. It can kind of take the ramped upness out of it. It can take the restlessness that can come with intense desire the spreading into sensuousness. You know what I'm talking about. It's what we're doing when we're dancing as well, no? We're spreading the sensuousness. We're feeling the ground. We're feeling our bodies. You know, we're feeling movement. And then we can feel the sky, the field, feeling us. It's not dead. You know, it's all alive. It's feeling us. We're feeling it. Life. We're feeling life. Life is feeling us. And that's just, there's some beauty and bliss in that sensuousness. So that's an invitation of a way to deal with intense desire coming up in meditation, is that allowing it to spread wider, to not be so one-pointed of, I want this and I want it now, which can be a suffering, hey. There can be a lot of suffering in, I need to have this now, you know. The last one of these 5 tools is doubt. So we often struggle between our desires. We struggle with this energy of doubt. And this is also something that to explore and get to know. To recognize first, this is doubt. These mental formations, these type of mental activities put me into the well of doubt. And so we're recognizing where it's coming from, this state of doubt. We're recognizing what doubt feels like in our body. That our mind can't quite settle and just be contented with what is. We're shifting around like this, trying to settle what's right, the big decisions in my life. Should I be here now? Should I leave the room? Should I? This state of doubtedness, doubting. And again, it's not a judgment that this is wrong in any way whatsoever. It's part of being a human being. But to know it know it in our bones. Here comes doubt. And what I find so wonderfully amazing about meditation is we're actually cultivating the capacity to see these things coming. So I had this image once whilst doing walking meditation, I think, of like, so as if we were walking in a field, a huge, great big plain. Okay, let's say out there in Mongolia or something, yeah? Wide as far as you can see, there's this huge plain. And we see a wild herd of horses coming from as far away as we can see. First we see the dust over there. And then we're like, what's that? What's that? Oh, what's that? What is that? And then we recognize, oh, it's some wild horses running towards me. And this is instead of we suddenly turn around and there's all these wild horses on us, you know? This is what meditation and this cultivating our awareness capacity is doing. We see it coming. We see it coming. We see from far away, oh, that's doubt. Oh, that's agitation. Oh, that's dullness. Whoa, that's that great big wave of desire coming at me, aversion. But normally it's coming up in here, inside us. But this inside us has become the big space. We've created that big space that can feel and see it coming from afar. So these are some pointers for today, if you feel like. Most likely, some of these have been coming up over the last few days, no? So just to know that there's nothing weird about you if you've had any of these. It's really, really very normal. And then we recognize them outside of meditation as well, that these are coming to us in our lives. We go, I see you, I see you. And this, I see you, is the Buddha. The Buddha is the seeing clearly. So we can celebrate that. We can celebrate our own seeing clearly, our own Buddha here. Thank you.